All right. As I said, we got a few questions that we want to write down. So if you get pen and paper right now, we can get into these. Otherwise, I'll be running through each individually as well. Okay. But first thing that I want you to write down is seeing your who. Second thing, becoming your who. Fourth or third thing here, but it'll be the fourth thing we'll go through today. It's the third question, owning your who. All right. And I want you to keep those things there because as part of your homework for today, you're going to go in and you're going to expand on those that are relative to you, where you're at, what you want, and everything that you're sort of working towards moving forward. Okay, what we want to look at here with the very first part of this, and we've talked about this in other modules in some capacity, about being able to future cast, about being able to visualize, about being clear on where you're going so that we have a flight, we have a path forward, we have a destination that we're sort of chipping away each block at a time. And without that in relation to who, in terms of you, all right, when it comes to your physical performance, when it comes to how you want to look and feel, we need to gain clarity on that. Okay. And it's something that I really want you to, as homework, pull back and think about it. Like, how do you look when you are operating at your best? Like, what does your body look like? What does your face look like? What, are you smiling? What do your eyes look like? What's your energy like? What do you like to be around? What are some of the things that you're doing, right, with all of this energy and all of this focus? How are you getting through the day? What does your day even look like? All of these different things. Okay. When we get to the very last module in this entire program, I'm going to leave you with an exercise where you're literally going to build out your ideal, perfect, normal day. It's an exercise that I do minimum once a year, but I just wanted to plant the seed at this point. The biggest thing I want you to do now is start seeing your who. Like, start seeing yourself, because so many of you can highlight and outline for me what you don't like. You'll be able to point out the parts of your body that are not where you want them to be. You're happy to articulate all the ways in which you don't like them and how they make you uncomfortable. But how many of you can see exactly what you want? What outfits are you wearing? What does your abs look like? What sort of lingerie do you wear now? What sort of gym gear do you wear now? What sort of, and you might not give a shit about any of that stuff, and that's fine. But like, what's important to you in terms of how you want to see yourself? Okay. And this isn't just in terms of like the person at this point, this is also your physical appearance. Because what I can tell you after doing this for 24 years, you can be the happiest person in the world. But if you do not like your physical appearance, it will affect you. Over time, it will become a gaping wound if it's not already. The two are interlinked. It doesn't matter what you say, the two will always be interlinked. Whether you love who you are or not, the two will always be interlinked. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody that on social media talks about how comfortable they are with their body and how much they love it. And then they're sending me messages in the background crying, saying that they've tried everything under the sun. They're currently on diet pills, diet medication, diet injections, and they just need help. So again, just understand that that's the reality that we live in. And for you, I just want you to start seeing your who. See it, right? I love it when a client will send me photos. Hey, I want this chick's body, that chick's body. I'm like, cool. It's a different shape to yours, but in terms of look and feel and what you want, I love it. It's visual. Let's go for it. If it's something that you want to see and you're looking at those changes, it's why you become more and more comfortable doing your body composition, because my body composition is me measuring where I'm at in terms of where I want to be and how I want to see myself. Okay. Next thing here is becoming your who. This one should be a big ass list, right? And I shared with you before, right? My two lists, right? One, what does me at my best look like? And then two, what do I need to do to master me? Okay. I'm a huge sugar addict. I could live without alcohol for the rest of my life, but like candy and sweets and ice cream and shit, like I struggle with that. And I think it's because as a kid, I wasn't allowed to eat any of it. So the moment I became an adult, it was like free flow. But anyway, for me, I'm good. But I also know that if I start having bits, it leads to more. If I start having a cheat meal in the middle of the week instead of on the weekend, by the time I get to the weekend, I probably had 3 cheat meals for that week. Okay. So it's being able to understand you, right? Whether you're like me and you have an addictive personality or whatever justification you've been telling yourself, that there's certain things that I need to put in place to make sure that I master me. All right. For me, one is like there's just zero sugar, just doesn't exist. Right. If I have a cheat meal, it's good, but then I have to make sure the next day I fast till lunchtime, and then my blood sugar is back to where it needs to be, and I can cope no problem at all, and I still enjoy it. I can still go out. I can still enjoy things with the kids. It works perfectly for me. That might not work for you. Okay. Something else might work for you. So, how do I become the best who? How do I become the best you, right? How do I master me? These are the questions I want you asking at this point. Do I need to wake up earlier? Do I need to stop drinking as much coffee? Do I need to look at what I'm eating and make sure I'm putting good enough fuel in my body so that I do have the energy that I need at the end of the day when I'm tired and stressed, that I'm sleeping the way I need to sleep, that I'm staying hydrated. So I keep that youthful look. I'm looking after my skin. I go and, do X, Y, and Z to make sure that I feel good, that I'm looking after myself from an anti-aging point of view, a hormone point of view, whatever it might be. All right. The what is fucking irrelevant, and it will always be irrelevant. It's very specific to you. But have you ever sat down and thought about, okay, like, I can see who I want to be. Now, what do I do and how do I become that me? Because it's not as simple as sitting there going, I'll just eat well and I'll train. Yeah, okay, cool. That's why so many people have been very successful at that, right? It is, those two things are easy to adapt into your daily routine. They're easy to follow, 100%. But that's not what's going to keep you on course long term. This is what's going to keep you on course. Seeing the changes that you want to see, it's also going to keep you on course because it's going to drive you to continue to go. But will you still be driven to continue to go if you don't see those changes yet because you've attached time to it? Whatever it might be. What do I need to do to become your who? That's what I want you to work on next for homework. So it's, what do I see is the first part. What do I do now in order to become that person, in order to become that version? All right. Before we get into the last question, okay, there is a whole section here that I want to plant with you, and it's the devil within. As human beings, there's a couple of things that we are going to struggle to change initially. One, it's no longer needing instant gratification. Here's what I want you to understand. I explained this in my podcast episode last week. As human beings, we are so consumed and overrun with instant everything now. What that does is it spikes our dopamine. And when you get that nice hit of dopamine, you then don't feel so shitty about yourself for a while until you have that next hit of dopamine, or until you come out of the other side and you realize, holy shit, I just online shopped. I just smashed a box of Tim Tams. I just ate a tub of ice cream. I just ate 10 Easter eggs when I said I was only going to have the ears off one of them. All of these things pop into us because they allow us to escape, and they allow us to get that instant feel good, that instant gratification. It's like when you were a kid, right? If you did something good and your parent took 5 days to tell you they did a good job, would you appreciate that as much as if they gave you a hug and, oh my God, you did so amazing, bang, 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 straight away lifted you up? No. I mean, imagine, like, of course you're going to enjoy that more. But here's the thing. Being told in 5 days' time never takes away from what you did 5 days before. It just took them a little bit longer to recognize it. Same way it's going to take a lot longer for you to realize what it's going to take to change, for you to realize the level of results that you want. But you're so addicted to this instant. It's why you hop from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. It's why we gamble. It's why we drink. It's why we eat shit. It's why people watch porn. It's why they have sex. It's why they play with their dogs too much, because their dog gives them instant love no matter how long they've been out of the house. All of these things are based around this instant, and that's the devil that lives within. Because for you to become who you need to become, it's not going to be instant. Can you make choices and decisions in an instant? 100%. But every single time that choice isn't in line with who you want to become, it might be a small choice, but I've explained it in previous videos. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. Before I know it, those little choices stack up to become something very painful, or to open up a wound, or to take me even further away from my goals, my intentions, from what I wanted than before when I started. It's because it's just as easy to do as it is not to do. That's the devil that's within. I can easily say no. It's not fucking hard to say no. No, right? It just comes out of your mouth. No, right? Or to not do this. But it's also just as easy to say yes and do this. And that's why, because we're so used to this instant. And for so many of us, we're so unhappy and so disconnected from what we're working towards that instant hit is just easy. I don't have to think about it. There's no pain attached to it. It's just boom. Until afterwards, when I spend too much money, I jump on the scale. I've realized what I've said in a hurry. I realized how I reacted. I, spent more than I should have spent on that. Whatever it might be, you have to live on the other side of that. And that's where guilt, blame, and shame, and you going into the pit of pain comes right back around again. And then you stay in the same shitty cycle. And this happens in self-love. It happens emotionally. It'll happen circumstantially, situationally. It'll happen practically. It'll happen financially. All of these different areas of your life will be affected at different times by this need for instant and by you disconnecting to the who. It's why we write this shit down. It's why I revisit these exercises every year, because if where I'm going is not where I want to be, for things to change first, I must change. I need to come back and I need to look at what I need to do in order to change my outcome. Why am I currently in this outcome? And it might be an outcome that you've been in before that you hate even more every time it comes back around, but for whatever reason, you're here again. So what needs to change? Last point here, owning your who. All right. So out of these 3 bits of homework, we've had seeing it. So you're going to build out the vision. You're going to write it all down with as much clarity and detail as you can. All right. My last one was like 2.5 pages, just that part. And yes, my handwriting shit, but it's still do it in detail. Next one is what's the do? Okay. How do I start becoming my who? I didn't say how will you be your who? How are you going to become your who? What needs to be put in place? What are you going to commit to doing in order to create that who, that version of you? Then, what do I need to own in order to be that version? Think about it. Becoming is me on the road. What do I need to own? So if I'm sitting at the end of this first intentional goal or version of me, let's say it's version 2.0, right? But in the future, you might build 3 and 4.0. But if it's 2.0, what do I need to own to be that version of me? It could be as simple as I no longer give a shit what anyone says about me. I own that, right? I make time for myself every day around everything that happens. I own that. I only put good foods in my body 80% of the time. I own that. I love to work out even when I'm tired because I know that it gives me the energy I need. I own that. All right? These are all things that once I've done it enough, it becomes part of who I am. It will also become part of what you do. But the most important element that we want to work on here is the who. Because once the who is operating at the level it needs to be, once you're doing the things that you need to be to become that, and then you do those long enough to own that, that's where you're standing now. You're no longer in the gap. You're no longer working towards it. You fucking own that shit. And it's you. And you can see it in terms of how you show up, in the things that you're doing, in the choices that you make, in the way that you are navigating through your life. You own it. You've now become it. Right? Which is at the end of the day, exactly what we need to be able to do in order for us to perform at a higher level. There's certain things that just aren't going to serve you along the way. For me, one of the biggest ones has been alcohol most of my life. And it hasn't even been a conscious choice. It's just been like, I don't know, I want to feel good tomorrow. So like having half a bottle of something tonight just doesn't interest me. I'd honestly rather eat an ice cream and go to sleep. Like it might be boring, but it's just in line with how I want to feel. Like sometimes for me on a Sunday, I will kick my ass on a Sunday morning and do something big challenge that I haven't done for weeks just because at the end of it, I have that level of fulfillment. And then if I'm going to take the rest of the day off, I don't give a shit if I do nothing that day. Right. But there's little things like that over time you'll start to own, you'll start to realize, you'll start to build and develop that are all in line with the who that excites you. Like when you look at that version of yourself, it should be smiling from ear to ear. Like your eyes should be fucking glistening and everything else because that's you and you can see you. Now let's go out and let's get you. Okay. Let's work on becoming you until you own you 2.0. And over the next few modules and over the next few lessons, we're going to continue to develop that. But we can't do that if we don't gain the clarity that we need also around what does physical you look like? How are you performing? How are you operating? What's all of the things that we've gone through today like for you? Because when we can get a solid emotional state and then we can attach it to a practical mindset approach in a high performance version of you, right? The vehicle itself, which is you. If that's performing at a higher level, emotionally, we know what we want, we've been able to deal with that. Practically, we know everything that we need to put in place in order to become the best us. And from a performance level, we know we can perform at a higher level than we ever had before, right? Results are guaranteed. But not only that, the ease at which we'll be able to achieve them and how they will feel will dramatically transform. And that's what a lot of you have never seen or experienced yet. So if you've gotten to this point, that's what I want you to continue to check in with. How am I feeling? Not just emotionally and everything else we worked on, but how am I feeling? Like measuring your own performance, because again, if I can measure it, I can master it, and we can start to do things and build what we need to so that you're performing at an even higher level as time goes on. All right. I look forward to connecting with you in the next lesson. And please, again, don't forget your homework, those 3 questions, write them all down. If you want to take a photo, send them through to me. I would absolutely love that to check them out. Otherwise, just post a photo in the group and just say, hey, this is what I did from lesson 1 of module 3, physical performance. So I look forward to connecting with you in the next lesson.